In my previous YouTube video, adding a ham radio antenna to a VW Atlas Cross Sport, I expressed some concern about the measured SWR curve on the 70 centimeter band for two antennas that I was testing with. And in particular, if I look at this low end of the band, I don't like what I see here really. And I mentioned wanting to cross reference what those frequencies are used for. In particular, checking um, the repeater where the repeater input frequencies are on the 70 centimeter band. So I ended up doing that. I went to the New England Spectrum Management Council's website, which is the organization that manages the spectrum for four of the New England states, and where I spend a lot of time operating. And they have a PDF, a great PDF, that's basically the band plan for different bands. And in particular, I'm interested in this one, the 440 band plan. So basically, I have a marked up version of it here. So what I'm interested in terms of mobile operation, and I think what most people are interested in terms of mobile operation, is mostly repeaters and simplex, which is essentially in on these frequencies, these channels. And this part, this subband, I'll call it, I'm going to call it the repeater and simplex subband, essentially extends all the way up to 450 megahertz and extends down to 441.250 megahertz. And so, using those two numbers, I did a little math to find the bandwidth of that subband and then the center frequency of the subband, because my antenna analyzer by default works in terms of a center frequency and a bandwidth, actually half of a bandwidth. And the other part of the band I'm interested in is really where the hotspots are, but to a lesser extent also where the satellites are, and it turns out that they're basically in the same places. And so that part of the band starts here, and so I called the low end 433.900, which you can see up here, and the high end basically goes to 439.200, which is in New England, or at least in Massachusetts, and these four New England states is a keep out area because of a research radar in Westford, Massachusetts. And so if I run the numbers with 439.200 and 433.900, I compute the bandwidth of that subband, which I'm calling the hotspot and satellite subband, and then the center frequency of it. So then I went out and basically did some more measurements. So this again is what was concerning me. And if I look only at the hotspot and satellite subband, the SWR looks okay to me. And it's not perfect, but basically my usage in this part of the band is low power anyway. So it might not be perfect, it might not be perfectly efficient. It's certainly not going to damage your radio at low power, so I am absolutely fine with this performance. And looking at the repeater and simplex subband, the performance is just spectacular. And this is where I do most of my operation. and where I've seen extremely high performance. So basically, despite the band is huge. The 70 centimeter band for amateurs is huge, and despite the fact that that my setup does not perform well in this part of the band, it's actually irrelevant, because in the parts of the band that I use, and that most people also use who are operating a mobile ham radio, the performance is excellent. So I'm not going to spend any time optimizing the performance, and in the future when I'm evaluating antennas, I will do a sweep across the whole band, but these two subbands in particular are what I'm really going to be looking at. I hope this sheds some light on this situation for other people who are curious about this stuff. Thank you.